Hello there, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my top tips for concealer application, in particular for those of us over 40 who have a difficult time concealing dark circles and not accentuating those wonderful fine lines that start to develop as we age. So if you're new here, be sure you hit that subscribe button, and now let's get started. Now, if you're watching this video, you are at least a little frustrated with how your concealer looks either initially upon application or as you go throughout the day. So I'm going to walk you through my concealer routine and share my tips and tricks along the way. So I'll show you how I applied it today and give you product recommendations and tool recommendations and all of that. But as we get started, I do want to just give a disclaimer here that, I'm 45, so I know I'm not in the mature age category, but I'm 20 years older than, when I really recall my under eye area still being smooth and free of lines and wrinkles. So that is not what's going to happen in today's routine. You're not going to see your lines magically disappear. But what I endeavor to do is to make the darkness disappear to help de-emphasize any puffiness and texture under your eyes, and then also for it to remain in place and looking pretty much like it did after application as you go throughout the day. So the very first step that is so important is to make sure that your under eye area is properly moisturized. Now, I use a separate moisturizer under my eyes. I use a specific eye cream. That area of skin under the eyes is very different and so much more delicate than the rest of the face. Also, I am a combination oily girl, so the skincare that I do on the rest of my face is not what I want to be using under the eyes because I have very dry under eyes. So one of my favorite under eye creams for the morning, and it does work well under makeup, but you'll see there's another important step I add in, but it is the 100% pure coffee bean caffeine eye cream. I love this because this absorbs quickly, it provides good hydration, but it also helps with depuffing and helps kind of reduce some of the darkness in the under eye area. I don't use this at night because I need a heavier eye cream, but you could also use this at night if you wish. My other favorite daytime eye cream, I actually don't have on hand because I've been trying others, but this is the one I plan to repurchase. It is the Thrive Cosmetics Gravity Define Eye Cream. That one also is wonderful, especially under makeup. That one actually has a little thicker consistency than this one, but it absorbs quickly and it does kind of provide a tad little bit of smoothing to the under eye area. Now, as far as my routine goes, I apply my eye cream right out of the shower after I've cleansed my face, apply the eye cream, and then that sits on the under eyes, absorbs while I'm getting my coffee and other things. So it's probably on there a good 20 minutes or so before I start application of makeup. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the next tip. So as we jump into the demo, you're going to see me starting with almost a full face of makeup, and I'm going to now start with my next top tip. So this tip involves foundation. I used the Bare Minerals Bare Pro Liquid Foundation today, but I did not apply it all the way up under the eyes because I'm trying to prevent as many layers underneath the eye as possible and therefore prevent cakiness. The next tip though is we need more hydration, and this is the Now Solutions Almond Oil. This is a wonderful find. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I started doing this to clean up the eyeshadow fallout, and you'll see in a moment how much makeup it removes. It makes sure that I have a clean canvas under here to apply concealer, but it also provides an amazing, wonderful amount of hydration because it's been quite a while since I applied my eye cream. Now you want to make sure you don't end up with excessive oil under here. So I just tap it in with my fingers and then wipe off my finger on a tissue and make sure that the area still feels hydrated, but there isn't excessive oil. And this sits so wonderfully under concealer and it does not interfere with my eye makeup throughout the day. Next, we're gonna go in with color corrector. If you've never used a color corrector, I would highly encourage you to do so if you have a lot of darkness. I'm using the NARS Radiant Creamy Color Corrector in light, and I'm just placing it on the darkest areas and over the blue veins I have that show. And what a color corrector does is it helps even out the tone. So blue tones don't really mix well with skin tone. So this helps kind of regulate that bluish tone or purplish tone so that when you go over it with concealer, it will have a much more even tone under the eyes. If you don't do this, sometimes you can end up with a slightly gray area or gray patches under the eyes. Now, I did apply the one side with my finger, but my preferred method is this Real Techniques Deluxe Crease Brush. It allows me to keep that color corrector just in the areas that need that correcting the most. Your finger works fine, but you're not going to have as much precision when you blend it in. So I'm just making sure I get all of those darkest areas covered and also making sure not to have any excess product. Now you do want to let that sit on the under eye for maybe about 30 seconds, and now it's time for concealer. I'm using the Clinique Even Better Concealer in WN04. I'll talk about color selection in a moment, but you can see there is a ton of product on this applicator. So I'm going to wipe that off. So there's just the tiniest amount on the doe foot applicator. And now I'm just going to work that little amount, spread it around. So it's gonna look like I applied a lot, but it's just a thin layer. And I'm keeping this well below the area below my lashes where I have fine lines. So I'm keeping this low, and then with the brush, it's going to work up just a little bit of that concealer up to conceal the darkness. My favorite brush is this BK Beauty and Angie from Hot and Flashy brush. It's the A506. If you don't have this, the Real Techniques Expert Concealer Brush or Deluxe Crease Brush, those are also good ones. But you can see how quickly this works that concealer in because it's a thin layer, and I just tapped it in and it worked enough concealer up towards the lashes to conceal the darkness and even out this tone, but it did not add a huge layer of cakiness under here. So again, the thinnest amount. And then what you can do, if you have under eye bags, or like you can see here, I have kind of that deep dark trough there still showing. Now I'm going to add a little more concealer below that trough and then right in kind of the center of it. And I'm working this towards the nose. And watch what happens when I blend this concealer and I brighten up this area along the nose, and then right in that trough, it creates this light illusion, and it's going to make that whole area look so much flatter. Isn't that amazing? Oh my goodness. Now you're gonna see me apply the concealer on the other side and start off with my fingers and then press it in with my brush. But I wanna talk about shade selection. Personally, I say to choose a shade that is close to your foundation color, if not maybe one shade or a half a shade lighter. You do not want to go 2 shades lighter or 3 shades lighter like we used to do about 5 years ago. That is just not really my preference, and I just think it can look a little bit strange. So choose a concealer color that is close to your skin tone or just slightly lighter. You definitely don't want to go darker, but you don't want to go too light. So here now I'm going to try that trick again. And as I have been working in the concealer, you'll notice I am not stretching my face down to keep the concealer from creasing. I just applied it naturally. But here I am going to squint and smile so that I can crease my concealer. Yes, I want to crease my concealer because that pushes out the concealer that has sunk down into my fine lines. So now I can wipe off any of that excess. You could also go in with a beauty sponge here and just gently tap off any excess that has creased, before setting with powder. And then I'm just going back with my foundation sponge. If you used a brush, go back with that. And I'm just making sure the concealer and the foundation line is fully blended. And next it's time for powder. Now, if you have under eye bags or texture under the eyes, powder is actually going to be your friend, but it's the amount and how you apply it that's important. So I'm using the BK Beauty 108 brush and the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder in shade 1. I'm just pressing the brush in. I'm not swirling it. I'm starting on the outer corner and then going on the inner corner. So I start on the area that I have the least amount of lines first to deposit most of the powder, and then go on the inside, and you can see how that just is the final perfecting step. All right, so here is my finished concealer. After more than a half an hour, it's been finished, and I've been smiling and talking on camera, doing all kinds of stuff, and it's still staying in place. It's not getting drier and drier and crepier and crepier. So these tips are ones that I do on a daily basis, and they do work well for me. Sometimes a couple hours into the day, or if it's a very long day, like I'm gonna need my concealer on there for 12 to 14 hours, which does happen occasionally for me, I will just keep on hand a cotton bud. And if later in the day I start to notice maybe a little bit of extra line showing, I'll just rub that cotton bud over that line, and it diffuses that, and it usually does the trick to help my concealer stay looking great for a few more hours. So I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you've been frustrated with your concealer, with how it looks, try these tips either with the products you already own, or try some of the products that I shared in my previous video. I will link that video as well as all the products and tools I talked about in today's video in the description box below. Thank you as always so much for watching. Be sure you hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.